Hello, viewers. Welcome to our weekly program, Cricket Central. This is your host, Dr. Vyas Masood, and joining me, two cricket experts from England, Mr. Afzal Hussain, my co-host, and also Dr. Khalid Shahzad. He's joining us from Nottingham, UK. Viewers, what happened last night when Australia was beaten by India was an amazing test match. We're going to talk about that in details. What happened, what went right for India, what went wrong with Australia, and where Australia will go from there, and what India will go from there. We're going to talk about that. India and Australia both are top team in the world. When the top team play each other and one team wins, and that is not an upset. Upset is when a weak team beats a strong team. But in the background, what happened, this was kind of an upset. What background I'm talking about? Background is that India was beaten by New Zealand at their home 3-0. And when India traveled to Australia, they had their captain staying back because of personal reason. Then one of their premier fast bowler, Shami, was injured. And one of their in-form number 3 batsman, Gill, got injured just before that. And captaincy was handed to Bumrah, who had just one test match captain's experience. So it was not good preparation for India for test match. And also, Afzal, Australia also prepared themselves well for the test match. They did whatever they could do to beat India because they were beaten last two times in a Border Basket Trophy. So Australia prepared well themselves and they were expected to win. What do you think, Afzal?
Yeah, what a great first test match to start off with, and it was exciting to see how the first day emerged, and then all next days they were dominated by India. So, as you mentioned, Australia prepared really well. They rested a lot of their players against Pakistan series. They were preparing. I think in their head they were quite, I would say, overconfident because the fact, as you mentioned, Indians they were coming with a low morale, just beaten by New Zealand at home against a side which no one could have thought that they can beat India comprehensively. So coming to Australia was a big challenge for India, but how well they played, we need to really appreciate their team. Obviously, as you mentioned, their captain was not there, Rohit Sharma. So there was a standing captain. Obviously, I would say a standing captain because he was just handed over the captaincy before the start of this match. That was Jasprit Bumrah. He was very good, not just with his bowling, but with his decision making, bowling changes. And for me, I think, as we discussed last week, it was something to prove for India, which they were there for, and Australians they were overconfident, and that got them actually.
Khalid, like many other expert cricket, did you see this coming? That Australia will be beaten and humiliated in their background?
I could see them. This was going to be a very close test match. If you see, India won the last two test series in Australia. So the Australians they made a very critical decision this time around. They put the first test. They usually play the first test match, and usually in Australia is in Brisbane. They always start at the Gabba, and there are reasons behind it. But this time they brought them in. They played the first test match in Perth on a very fast, bouncy wicket, and they thought that they will catch India unaware on that track. Uh, but surprisingly, it was probably a mix of Indians. Jasprit Bumrah obviously was the difference between these two sides. They got India out to a very low score in the first inning, so everything was going well. But they didn't account for Jasprit Bumrah. Nobody could, to be honest. I thought that once they got India to a very low score in the first Test match, on the second day usually is a good batting wicket, and I thought that the Australians will put up a decent score, and Indians are going to lose this. That's why I think the difference was just with Bumrah's first spell on that evening that really broke their back, and he
That
bowled
was
beautifully.
amazing. Let's talk as a whole. Like Bumrah factor. How big was the factor? Not just like a bowling, his captaincy and the way he, led the team. It was a big factor. So Basically, not only that he bowled well, but let's see his approach to the game. First of all, his selection. Selection was very bold. Afzal, what do you think about selection? Like he had two debutants. Okay, he left out like Ashwin and Jadeja, and so he put a new fast bowler, Rana, who was not very experienced. Actually, he was like first test. So it was a bold move. And then, above all, he decided to bat first. What do you think about that decision?
Exactly. It's a history whenever the fast bowlers they're captaining. I'm talking about the top fast bowlers we've seen um, them captain. They do it differently. They do with aggression, not just on field, but with their decision making. So, as you mentioned, Rana, he was on debut, but the way he bowled Travis had that was some delivery. To be honest, that can get any batsman out, and that comes from backing these young talented cricketers. Even though he was on debut, but the way he was bowling, the way he was having a conversation with Mitchell Stark when he was batting, so that sledging and some words on field, so they were quite confident, and remarkable effort from India, and also led by Jasprit Bumrah. His selection, his approach towards the game, not just as a bowler but as the leader of the pack, which we always discuss. If you are a batter, you got to lead from the front as a unit, and that's what he did. He was an example to all the bowlers on the field. So, the right decisions made and rightly delivered. That's very, very um, simple word to say, but they've done it. They've done it in style, to be honest. And a big message to the Australians now. They'll be thinking how they're going to come back to this border Gavaskar Trophy.
Yeah, so let's many things came out good for India. Let's talk about Bumrah. I cannot, stop talking about him. Do you think that if you have to pick one fast bowler from currently available in the world for your team, whom would you pick? Afzal?
Just one bowler?
Yeah, who is do you think the best fast bowler right now in the world?
Obviously, without any doubt, we have seen Jasprit Bumrah doing wonders for India, not just in one format. And that's the beauty of his bowling. When he came in, when he was growing in terms of fame, some of the experts thought he's just a T20 bowler or he is a limited over bowler, but he has emerged as one of the top bowler in the world, not just in shorter format, but also in the longer format of the game. And also, he made a comeback from an injury not long ago. So that shows how structured Indian Cricket Board is, and also full credits to not just the cricket board but to this individual who who improved his game, and he is one of the best, I think, in the world. And I will pick him any day for sure. Not just with the new ball, but he's equally um, deadly and scary with the old ball as well.
So Khalid, we have been watching good Test cricket for a long time. So India has produced many good fast bowlers. So in my opinion, still Kapil Dev has been their best fast bowler they have produced. The only question is who is now you rate as the second best? We have many in the past. We have Zahir Khan, we have Srinath, we have many other fast bowlers. You think that Bumrah is the second best so far India has produced in Test cricket?
Yes, I've seen Kapil Dev a lot. I think I'll differ from you here. I think Jasprit Bumrah is the best Indian fast bowler that they ever
Even better than
produced.
Kapil Dev?
Yes, I'm 100%. He's much quicker. He is more lethal. He bowls beautifully on fast wickets. He bowls beautifully on seaming wickets, and he's equally deadly on Indian wickets. So if you see his average is up there with Malcolm Marshall. His average is around 20, which in modern cricket is almost very difficult to achieve. So he bowls just beautifully across all formats, across all pitches, against all opposition, and he's just a beautiful fast. He is, I think, is an exceptional fast bowler.
I was
I
already
think he's
thinking,
as good as Lily came when Lily came in the beginning, or when Malcolm Marshall came in the beginning. I think he's as good. Probably he'll be going to be as good as Wasim Akram when he finishes his career. And Wasim, I
okay,
think, is probably the best all-time fast bowler.
okay. Zal, what do you think? You agree with that? He's the best fast bowler India has produced?
Definitely, I have to agree on this because very rightly mentioned by our guest as well that in the modern day, the way cricket is going, it's mostly dominated by the batters. What we have seen in last 10 years. So in this age, when he is doing so well in terms of the economy, in terms of the average, so let's not. I would not compare these two, like Kapil Dev and Jasprit Bumrah. But at the moment, by far, he as a T20 specialist, as a test bowler, and as someone who has proven himself over and over again, by far the best Indian cricket ever produced, and definitely the best in the world as well at the moment.
Okay, that's you guys' two opinion. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of Kapil Dev for many reasons, and I can talk a lot about that. But I think that he was the number one fast bowler India has produced so far. The reason being that look at the era in which he bowled. I mean, look at the teams like West Indian, like Richard and company, and Greg Chappell in Australia, and then the fast bowler in Pakistan. He bowled against them, and he was by himself. He had no support from other end. But Bumrah has been having support. Like Shami is the biggest example. So I think, but again, Kapil Dev was not the best fast bowler at his time in the world. Bumrah, no doubt, right now is the best fast bowler in the world. So that goes in favor of if you go in debate who is the better, who was the better, Kapil Dev or Bumrah. So I think Bumrah, no question about that. Many experts like you guys also they think that Bumrah is right now the best fast bowler in the world, which Kapil Dev was not at his time. Okay, now
Definitely.
move on.
Sorry, I would just like to ask you something because obviously, whatever opinion we have as participants of this show, we have a reason to back. So I would ask you a question: what is the main weapon of a fast bowler?
Men were like basically get wickets and match winning. So
Now,
how
in
much
terms
match
of deliveries, obviously, which is the main lethal weapon of a fast bowler, in your
different fast bowler.
opinion?
Yes. So like Kapil Dev, his outswinger was a killer. Such a good outswinger he used to bowl. Very few bowler, even at that time, used to can bowl could bowl best outswinger. Has variety. He has
Oh,
everything. Bumrah. He has in swinger, outswinger, short ball, Yorker. So I know he has more variety than
yeah.
Kapil Dev ever had.
So
So
my comparison is not based on the variety, but is in the age when Kapil Dev played. You know better than me how many bouncers were allowed, but now there's a lot of limit to that. So as I mentioned, it's a batting dominated era. So if he's doing well in this age, he's one of the best, to be honest. That's my opinion again.
okay,
I
okay.
tell you one more thing about Bumrah. If you see this test match, he can bowl at one spot and he will take the ball away, three, four balls away, and without very little change in action, he will bring the ball back again exactly at the same spot. It's a very
Yeah, just
difficult
like
art.
Mohammad Asif,
Yeah,
he
Mohammad
used to
Asif
do
was
the
another
same.
example, yes. But
He used to
he's
do the
quicker
same
than
with the
Mohammad
same
Asif.
wrist position.
Yes, exactly. But he's a lot quicker than Mohammad Asif.
Yeah,
Bumrah is much quicker. He's very, very
So
skiddy. And the other thing
Bumrah
is he
was
bowls up with a hyper
that
extension and releases the ball quite late. So Cat gives him an extra yard of pace. He releases the ball very late, about because of his
yeah, he's
extension.
very
He
hard to pick,
releases it
very
very
hard to pick
late,
for
very
the
hard to
batsman.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
exactly. So
picking the
Bumrah
swing
was
so
not
late.
the only factor, was a major factor, but whole team actually they played well. So
Yeah.
many other positive, like Jaiswal. What do you think this young man? I mean, like he was out very cheaply in first inning, but he came back with a bang in second inning. Look at that. He was playing like a local team. What do you think about Jaiswal's second inning? Were you impressed, Afzal? What do you think about him? What's his future like? You think?
definitely. It was obviously Bumrah's show, but then in the second innings, dominated by the batters, and from the top, Jaiswal. He is one of the best opener at the moment for India, uh, considering his age and again the way he's playing, surrounded by the great company of Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and all these players. So he was very composed in the second innings, and the way he was taking charge against the bowler. So he looked very confident, and he's got a bright future ahead, to be honest.
Okay, so I mean, many other things like the new debutants like Rana. He was. What do you think about Rana? Khalid, you think potential?
Rana is a quite a surprise. I first saw him in this test match when he started bowled his first over. I thought he's an ordinary bowler, but once he started into his groove, he's quite, especially the ball that he bowled Travis Head, and that was quite a critical dismissal too. But he's a very strong man, and he puts lots of shoulder behind the ball. So he is going to be handful, I think, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to increase his speed. He's a very
Yes,
strong fast bowler. He's going to increase his speed too.
I think
And
again credit goes to Bumrah that he selected him against in ahead of like a couple of very experienced fast bowler, and he is pretty good talent he has. He's strong. He's well built, broad shoulders. The only thing he need to work on is his fitness. He looked a little bit chubby, but again, he's a debutant. He's not a finished product yet, but he has the talent, and I'm sure that he's going to serve Indian fast bowling for many years to come. So that was very good to see that.
Yeah.
And
if
let's
I just stop you here, but if you, I was listening today. You remember this fast bowler from Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, the very fast. What was his name?
Umran,
Imran.
Umran,
And if you,
Umran.
yeah, I was just coming back to your point on working hard and improving. So he came as a, if you remember, he started bowling very fast in 150s and everything, and everyone thought that he's going to be the next big thing in India. But then you'd be surprised he wasn't picked up in any of the IPL auction this year. And this is what happens if you don't work on your game. Pace alone enough in these days. It's a very competitive game now. It's a very different ball game. Pace enough. So he was not even picked for any of the IPL teams this year, which is a big
I think
surprise
he
to me.
must be injured or something because he's
No, he's not injured. No, no. I was just listening today that nobody picked him.
okay. Coming on a brief like appetizer. Do you know who got the highest price in the Indian IPL auction this
Pant,
time?
Pant, Rishabh
Rishabh
Pant.
Pant.
And
Which
Sherry
I'm not
Ryan, to be
surprised.
honest, Sherry Ryan wasn't very far behind. But very big surprise that he was bought for about 26.5 crore. So
27, yeah, around
yeah, yeah.
27.
So
Okay,
Sherry
so
Ryan
let's
was.
see what went wrong with Australia. Australia is a pretty settled team, particularly their fast bowler. They are around for almost a decade now, and they are not they are. I guess they are in good shape. They are in good form. They showed what they are made of in first inning, but what happened second inning? Totally demoralized. So I mean, bowling you cannot blame much. I mean, they just Indians just batted too well. But looking at Australia's batting, we have a lot of problem we're seeing in Australia's batting. Afzal, what do you think? Australia batting, you are concerned about that?
Well, last week and the week before, when Pakistan was in Australia, we discussed one thing. The only team who can beat Australia is the one who plays like Australia. So that's what India did to them. Even though they were bowled out around 150, but then the way they bowl and Bumrah and the lot, um, they were shattered. Australians went to the back foot, and then Indians came back to bat, and they quite obviously the conditions got a bit better, but then Indians they took charge of their bowlers and they attacked quite often, and then they scored a big total. So we saw a different Australian team when they came on. They came on to bowl even in the second innings. So credit to the Indians, and definitely their batting needs to be way better. It's not the same Australian team again, which was used to be like 20 years ago, but Australia and Australia. We have seen Pakistan got almost 4 wickets on 16 runs last year when we were in Australia in a test match, but thanks to our fielding, that let them down. So Australians, they're not being the same, but then again, if you don't attack them, they will take you out of the game. But Indians, they were very good in terms of their strategic move, in terms of the selection, and also how the batters approached in the second innings. It was remarkable.
So Australia did not lose. India beat them badly. That what looks like. At the same time, I think Australia, they might be overconfident. I mean, look at their batting, and they have not prepared themselves good for last year or so. I mean, they know that. I mean, Walter, who was going, David Walter, he was leaving soon. They did not prepare opener for him. Look at that. I think that was not very wise move to put Smith as the opener. They wasted like a whole series, like against Pakistan and West Indies. They could have bring in a new opener, and by now he would have been very fit. I think they wasted time, and now they're looking for a placement. I don't know. I don't think. You think that they will make any change for next test, or I think the same team will play? What do you think, Khalid?
I don't think they're going to make any changes, at least not for the Adelaide Test match, not for the day-night Test match. I think the main problem is that the two main players. If you see their victories in the last 4 or 5 years, where they dominated this international scene, they were all based on big scores by Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne. They were two main pillars in their batting, especially and along with the openers with David Warner. So obviously, Warner leaving left a very big hole in the opening position. And the other problem they have now is that Steve Smith and Manas Labuschagne, they're not firing at all. Manas Labuschagne, I know what has happened to him. He just changed his game. He just slowed down. He was just a pedestrian in this test match. He was a sitting duck. I think he could have caught out about 100 times in this test match. And Steve Smith seems to have, I think I know where this is, reflexes low. He's getting out a lot now. At one time, it was nearly impossible to get him on these wickets. And
I mean,
now
if you see Steve Smith's batting style, that requires a very quick reflexes.
Very good,
he's not like
very good
a like style. Like you have to the way he come forward and go back. If you lose a little bit of little bit age, reflex slows down. You cannot play that long inning. So I think that's what's going on with him.
Definitely.
So next test match is Adelaide, like a day and night.
Yeah,
with
the
pink
day-night
ball.
match.
And
This is
the
a
pink
very
ball,
technical test match,
exactly. When the pink ball, I mean, they moves a lot. I mean, they just
especially in the
remains
evening.
in a good shape for many overs, and it will not be a very high score match. What do you think? The Australia has a chance, and you think what we predict? I mean, we are not fortune teller. I mean, we can only say that what's going to happen, expect. But I think it will be a good match. I think Australia, by going their history, I think going to come back strong. What do you think of Zal? You expecting that, or they'll
Definitely,
be demoralized?
it's gonna be very good competition. Rohit Sharma also coming back, so we saw him training towards the end of the match. He was training in the nets, and Indian they got more confident now. As you mentioned, the second test it's going to be a bit different, but then again, very competitive. And Australia they need to prove a point here. Their media obviously the media is quite like India and our media as well. When they're not doing well, they don't take them lightly. So there'll be a lot of pressure on them. But again, that's how good they are. They kind of bounce back from these conditions. But I have to give credit to India now. And in the second match, I think Indian team will be favorite considering the fact how um, how considering the form of Australian team and the morale as well.
Yeah, if Australia needs a motivation to come back, make a bounce back, they can take from India what India did last time when they were here in 21. They were beaten badly. They were all out for 36. And after that, they came back, they bounced back, and they won the series. That was amazing. So Australia, they should try to do the same. They're beaten, now they can win also. So what do you think after, what changes you expect in India team? Now Sharma is back, he'll play, and Gill will play. And there are some news not confirmed yet that Shami might be back, although I don't expect that he will be in Adelaide's test. So, but there are two changes are must. Uh, I think very easy. I think the Padiker he will be replaced, and also the Jewel he will be replaced. So, but the batting order will be tricky things. I think after Rahul, after he played so well as opener, you think that they're going to drop back to number 5, or they're going to stick with his opening role? What do you
It's
think?
going to be very challenging call, but again, captain has to be there. I've seen during the last. It was not the last day of the match, but when on the fourth day we saw David Warner going towards the nets, and he was just mentioning that Rohit Sharma is back. He's practicing hard, and he was practicing with a pink ball, so he's definitely playing. And yeah, they have to make these choices. Obviously, they need to make these decisions. But definite call is Rohit Sharma, and I'm not certain about Mohammad Shami. I don't think so. He'll make a place, but if he does, it will be very surprising.
So, Khalid, I just want to talk about Siraj also. I think he was lately he was not in good form, but I think he bowled very well also. And the way he is not like a express bowler, but he also moves ball a lot. I think he'll be a handful also in Adelaide Test. What do you think about Siraj contribution would be at
He,
Adelaide
he,
Test?
he, he will be, definitely he will be. Siraj's first innings wasn't very good, but he's bowled quite nicely in the second innings. And I usually did not used to rate him very high, but he's improved a lot now, Siraj. But in Adelaide, especially in the evenings, he can be a handful.
Yeah.
If you remember, Adelaide is where India were all out for 36 in the last tour. And this is where the last, if you
Australia
remember
has
that.
played several tests. They won all tests so far. So that's their fortress. Okay.
But
So let's
he's
go.
a very
Yeah,
Shami.
actually,
I
there was
don't
a
think they'll bring him back in Adelaide. I think Shami they'll bring him back in the third Test match. I think they'll
yeah,
probably wait for another
yeah.
Test match. They're going to bring him
They
back
won't
in the
rush him.
third
They
one.
won't rush him. Yeah.
Yeah, but he once he's fully fit, he comes straight back in.
I think the ideal condition for him would be Adelaide. The way
Yeah,
he
probably.
moves ball like okay from good length.
He played this Ranji Trophy. I watched part of that Ranji Trophy game. I was watching
Oh, really?
highlights on YouTube.
Was he
Yeah,
good?
and he bowled beautifully. They prepared a green wicket for him, and he
Oh,
absolutely bowled 45 overs, and he bowled beautifully. He was in complete rhythm, lots of pace, swinging one both ways, and he looked supremely fit in that match. So I don't think we are far away from Shami. And if Shami comes back and Bumrah and Shami back in this side, then India fast bowling is going to be lethal.
okay. So that's amazing. We're all looking forward to Adelaide Test and the series beyond that. If India loses and Australia wins, I think it will be even more interesting series down,
Yeah,
and every test will
very
be
good.
very, very interesting. So we'll see. Okay, and so with that, we wrap up our discussion. I think we have very discussion. There are some other topics, but I think that's less important. I think there was a main topic of discussion nowadays going on all over the cricketing world. I think we had very good discussion, and hopefully next week we have some more discussion on the same series going on and for next couple of months. And thank you very much for my guest and Afzal for participating, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.